Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Diablo 3 Build Factory. My name is Phobos and today's topic will be on how to stutter step or on how to improve your stutter stepping. And I decided to do this episode because I see a lot of people who stutter step in a non-efficient way. They have way too much mouse movement or anything like that, and I really think that they should improve their stutter stepping. So I decided to do this video and I hope that a lot of people will learn something out of it. Now, I will do this with a demon hunter, but basically this technique should work with a witch doctor or with a wizard as well, so don't worry about that. So if you're a witch doctor or a wizard, make sure to practice this technique as well. Also, the footage in the background is Act 3 Inferno, nothing that special, just a few fights with champion packs and so on and so forth. But now let's get to on how you should stutter step. Okay, why should we stutter step in Diablo 3? First of all, stutter stepping in Diablo 3 works just like in StarCraft 2, for instance, when you're playing with Marines Marauders or with any other ranged unit from StarCraft 2. And the thing is, when you're stutter stepping, you will attack much more often than when you would attack and standing still. A lot of people don't know about this, but that's actually the case. And the DPS of people who are just standing still while attacking, their DPS will be much lower in comparison to people who stutter step their way through their monsters, and this is really important to notice. So you should always try to incorporate the playstyle of stutter stepping. Of course, there are times where you just can't stutter step, you don't have enough space to do so, or there's too much fire on the floor, like from champion packs who have the molten affix, for instance. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Don't use stutter step if you really can't. Just attack the normal way if you have to. Another thing about stutter stepping is a moving target is always more difficult to hit. That's really important to notice, and that's another benefit from stutter stepping. Also, in the case from a demon hunter, more attacks mean more hatred generation. Of course, it can also mean more hatred loss, but in most cases you will use your primary attack for stutter stepping, so you will more benefit from the stutter stepping than you will decrease your DPS by having no hatred at all. Also, what I really want you to keep in mind is PvP. If you intend to do a lot of PvP, you will have to nail down stutter stepping. Stutter stepping will be the difference between victory and defeat. It's just as easy as that. Keep that in mind. It's really important. So if you really want to do a lot of PvP, nail down stutter stepping now, and later on when PvP is released, smash your enemies with a higher DPS than they have. Even if they have better items than you. Could happen. So now let's get to stutter stepping. Okay, now let's talk about how stutter stepping actually works, and you're supposed to see my left hand now. Also, I want to talk about some general things first before I get to stutter stepping. So, when stutter stepping, first you want to rebind all your keys. In my opinion, it is really important to do so, because I don't know what kind of keyboard you have or how large your hand is, but otherwise your hand will cramp up really fast, so I would really recommend doing so, because yeah, it isn't really comfortable to do so in the long run. So go to your options, go to key bindings, and on gameplay you will find the action bar skill 1, 2, 3 and 4. And I would recommend binding them on Q, W, E and R, or like I did on A, S, D and F. Also, I would highly recommend binding the move command on your keyboard as well. I decided to go with the spacebar, but you can pick whatever key you want. It really just depends what is most comfortable for you. So, if you did this, I would say press apply, accept and return to game. And now let's talk about stutter stepping. Now a lot of people already have an idea what stutter stepping is in a nutshell. That is clicking back and forth while attacking. And that's true. But actually it is way more complicated than that, because when practicing stutter stepping you really want to do so as efficient as possible. So now let's say this guy here is an enemy. What a lot of people will do is this. And as you can see, that's way too much mouse movement. Way too much mouse movement. You lose a lot of time with your mouse doing this. So what I would recommend is you want to keep your mouse movement as little as possible all the time. And you want to keep your cursor, your mouse cursor, close to your character. You don't want to click on the enemy. You don't necessarily need to. And you don't need to point on the character, enemy as well. So what is most important is you just need to face in the direction of the enemy. So what I would recommend is do this. Keep your mouse cursor close to your character and keep your movement as little as possible. And as you can see, that's way more efficient. You can attack way more. So when starting stutter stepping practice, I would recommend doing it this way. However, in my opinion, this isn't the best way to do the stutter stepping move or the stutter stepping playstyle. So what I would recommend in the long run is this. And I want you to think about it this way for a second, because a lot of you might have experienced this as well. Your character sometimes in some situations gets stuck, and by stuck I mean you have nearby enemies on your character, you have items on the floor, or you have any other obstacles near your character, and sometimes you misclick on them and your character gets stuck, and sometimes that really sucks because you really just want to move away from the enemies, but you can't do so because there are so many enemies or there's too many obstacles nearby. So what I would recommend is binding the movement command on your keyboard so that you can move at any time. So as you can see, I'm pressing the spacebar right now and my character starts to move. So that is really important, and it is even more important for the stutter stepping playstyle. So the core essence of stutter stepping at its best is doing a rotation between shift, your action bar key or your left mouse button depending on what attack button you want to use, and the spacebar or movement command keyboard key. So what you want to do is this. You press shift, attack, and then you move with the spacebar or the movement key you have for your keyboard, so that your character won't get stuck by obstacles. And as you can see, that's really efficient. Don't forget to keep your mouse button close to your character. Just point in the direction of the enemies. Now, what a lot of people will experience is when practicing this way is that your aim will be a little bit off. Sorry, it will be a little bit off. So you don't need to worry about that too much because your enemies are moving as well, and most of the time you will hit them. It's no problem at all. And don't forget, you will attack much more often than when you're just standing still. So your DPS will increase anyways, even if you're just a newcomer to this playstyle. So I would recommend doing this anyways, even if you suck at it at the beginning. And that's stutter stepping for you. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you will practice this style as much as possible. Just remember, this is really mechanic heavy. You really just can't nail this skill down in just a day. You really have to stick at it and practice as much as possible. That's really important. So don't get discouraged if it doesn't work like you want it to be in an hour or 2 hours or something like that. You really have to stick at it. So if you really enjoyed this episode, make sure to press the like button. It's really much appreciated. Also, make sure to subscribe if you want to stay up to date on more action from the Diablo 3 build factory. And I just want to remind you, there will be stuff about other characters too. Don't worry, it just takes a little bit of time to develop ideas and to level the characters up. And as always, I will see you next time. Have a good one and goodbye.